a son of Adam. I am a sinner. And am I also, by God's grace, a son of God? And so are you. That's who you are. And you're here to do God's will, to do God's law. We need to talk a lot more about what it means for you to do God's will. But before we do that, we need to address another question that has got to have risen in your mind. A question that's just so obvious it has to be talked about. You see, I've been arguing that creation is absolutely a foundational doctrine for our understanding of who we are and what our purpose is in life. It's not some sort of side doctrine or some sort of incidental teaching that the church throws in along the way. It's absolutely critical and foundational for all that we know about ourselves, all that we know about what we're doing here in this world. And the problem is, the idea of creation does not fit real well with the contemporary view that most people have about who they are, what they're doing here, and how they kind of fit into the world. And of course, I'm talking about a scientific, or more accurately, a Darwinian evolution attitude or an outlook on life. And these two really are in opposition, because a creation viewpoint says God is the sovereign creator. That means He's in charge. He's the one who puts me here at His choice, doesn't consult me. He's the one who sets the rules. He's the one who enforces the rules. He's absolutely the sovereign ruler. And me? Well, I'm creature. That means I'm totally reliant upon Him. I have to live in submission to Him and to His will. And people don't like this. In fact, this goes against the very fabric of what it means to be a 21st century Western civilization individual. We are the products of our culture, and our culture is founded upon what is still known as the Enlightenment. And I don't want to get too hung up teaching you about the Enlightenment, but it's an important concept, because the Enlightenment was a period in history when the philosophers decided they didn't need to mess with God anymore. Man was enough. And man would be the measure, and man would be the only thing that mattered, and we would trust man and work toward the goal of becoming all that man can be. And we still live with that attitude. You see, if God's really in charge, that means I'm not, and I'm no longer autonomous. Autonomy is a wonderful word. It comes from two Greek words, autos and nomos, literally meaning self-law. So the person who is autonomous means he's a law unto himself, calls his own shots, makes his own rules. And autonomy goes right in the face of God as a creator. Because if God is a creator, I'm not autonomous. I am in submission to Him. And if autonomy goes, well, and so does choice, because I really don't get to do whatever I want. And if choice goes, well, then so does freedom. Because ultimately, I can't do whatever I feel like doing because I'm accountable. God holds me accountable to His law. And if I violate this law, well, there are consequences for that. We've already discussed that a little bit. So we have a problem because we have God as a creator who's in charge, or man's in charge. And the Enlightenment wants us to believe that man's in charge. And we have this battle then. Are we going to have man calling the shots, figuring his own way, living without God, or as God being irrelevant, or with God at the center and as the vital core of everything that we do? These are in opposition. And what's at stake? So much is at stake. Because if I learn to live with God as creator and learn to live in submission to His will and to His purposes, then I learn to live rightly related to Him and to the rest of the creation around me. And when I do that, then everything works. Things just fall into place. Things click. Things are in sync. And it works the way it's supposed to. And in fact, when I'm living with God as creator and living happily as His creature, then I can finally learn how to thrive and live the way I'm supposed to live. Live the way God always planned for me as a creature to live. On the other hand, if I fight against God as creator, I live in opposition to Him. I live in opposition to all that He has established, and I live in opposition to the rest of the creation then. I find myself at odds with, well, those who are close to me. My relationships are broken and strained. I'm at odds with the rest of creation itself, not really living in the right kind of relationship with them that God would have me to live. And I find myself ultimately estranged from the rest of creation, living in isolation. And the final culmination of this is the horror, the terror of hell. Because what hell really is man living in isolation from God and from everyone else. People sometimes joke that I'd rather go to hell because it's going to be a party with my friends. No way. Hell is absolute isolation, cut off from all relationships. That's hell. So to live on your own, in violation of God as creator and God as the sovereign Lord, means that you are living apart from his will, and you're living in opposition to his purposes, and you find yourself cut off in all of your relationships. There is a lot at stake. A lot at stake. So we need to come to terms with God as creator and come to terms with how this is in opposition to a Darwinian worldview, which would say that man has evolved to where he is, and God has nothing to do with it, and if there is a God, he is unconcerned and doesn't care. These are in direct opposition. They're incompatible. Now, does this mean then that if I'm a Christian, I have to simply subscribe to the Bible and forget about all research or all empirical evidence or any kind of careful studying of the world? Not at all. It's a wrong conclusion to draw that, well, you're telling me religion and science are in conflict. They aren't. They are not. In fact, when science is done the way it is supposed to be done, it is always in a wonderful relationship with God's truth. God is the author of all truth. There is only one truth. So when we discover truth, we are discovering God's truth. So when the scientist discovers truth about genetics, or he discovers truth about quantum optics, or about physics, he's discovering God's truth. And that truth will always be in sync with the truth revealed in his word and in the creation around us. They're together. It's one truth. There was a medieval theologian who had a wonderful phrase, and I'm not sure how he was applying it, but I know how I like to use it. And he said that we as human beings are thinking God's thoughts after him. And I think this captures really beautifully the scientific enterprise. God is the one who created the world. He built the universe his way, according to his plan. And it's established according to his grand scheme. There it is. And now we as human beings are learning about this world, and we're fascinated by this world. We discover things, we study it, we learn. And we learn about genetics and physics and the atom. And as we discover these things, we're not making new discoveries. We're simply rediscovering what God put there long ago. Thinking God's thoughts after him. That's what we're doing. And it's a wonderful enterprise. So the Christian does not have to quit his job in science. Not at all. A Christian should be pursuing science. In fact, Christians should be the greatest, most zealous scientists around. So there's no conflict between science and God or science and religion. This is not the conflict. But make no mistake, there is a conflict. The conflict is between two religions. One is the religion that says God's creator and is the ruler of all. And the other is the religion of human trust that says God is unconcerned. Man makes his own rules, majority rules. We simply make our own way and do the best we can. That's the science, or that's the religion of too much modern science. That's really the religion at work behind Darwinian evolution. So we have in competition here not religion and science. We have in competition two religions. We have in competition the religion of God as creator, or the religion of man is the measure of all things, man is his own Lord. That's where the real battle comes in. So, as Christian people living in the world today, we do need to realize we cannot make unholy alliances. And any notion of trying to somehow justify and reconcile the assured results of evolution with Christian worldview of God as creator, I would argue, are simply ill-founded and foolish. You cannot reconcile two irreconcilable ideas. So then, what do you do with all the evolutionary ideas and all the evolutionary facts as they're told to us? Well, quite frankly, my attitude has become, I'm not going to worry about them too much. God has this way of always managing to come out with a clear resolution to our apparent conflicts. And we see an irreconcilable problem. What about these facts? What about God's truth? I would argue, give it some time. And in time, these things will have a way of resolving themselves. They always have before. And when they're always resolved with God's truth prevailing. So how do I reconcile some of the scientific notions that are around today with the truth that God is creator? How do I make these things fit together? I'm not worrying about it too much. I'm going to simply trust God's word and continue to dig into the world around me, learn everything I can about it, and encourage others to do the same. Always with a submissive attitude saying, God's the creator. I'm discovering his truth after him. And when you live that way, with the idea of being in submission to the ruler of all and willingly following things his way, life is a blast. It really is. Because you get to live freely within God's creation, and then you learn what it really means to thrive.